this is a fantastic initiative. Getting so many HR leaders and getting business leaders under one roof.
We took this opportunity. It was good to get together, meet lots of old people I've worked with, people from Airtel and Philips, where I've been here working.
I've just gone through it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very outstanding course.
I'm very happy to meet all of you. I always have a dream, and I have been telling Shankar about my dream that I want HR to grow into CEOs, big leaders in the world.
Change is constant, change is dynamic. Do you have that mindset to change with the times? You need to be relevant to the context.
So happy to be bringing the forum back in person and help leaders connect and learn from an outside perspective. And the launch of Catalyze and the Future HR Leader program made it super special to be doing this beginning again.
It was a good learning session for me.
What you hear here in such kind of platform is going to remain.
There's a lot of learning in terms of what are the things which are going to shape the HR in future.
Hi everyone. Ha- I hope I'm live now. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are joining in from. And welcome to this very special edition and the inaugural conversation of the Total Rewards community. Super excited to bring in this new uh, community of practice for everyone across the globe. And I'm super excited to share. While we did a pre launch just about, I think, 5 days back, we already have crossed a century in this small community with 120 people joining us. And another thing that I'm super excited and pleasantly surprised is that we have around 16 different countries that are represented in the 120 members. While majority of it is India, but we also have countries in the Middle East like the UAE. We have Africa, we have Bangladesh, Brazil, even United States, Israel, France, Germany, Spain, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Netherlands, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Italy. So this is really becoming a very international community, and I'm so glad to each one of you who has joined us outside of India as well. We hope to in the future, make some in-person interactions as well outside India, and this was a very pleasant thing to see. I have Mayur Chaturvedi and Yuvaraj Srivastava with me on the call as well. But before I bring them, I thought I will spend just a couple of minutes to introduce what Total Rewards community is. For those of you who are joining us and are not aware, it's the inner circle for the leaders and practitioners in the total reward space. Companies who have a clear understanding that talent is really the true differentiator today, are investing hugely in the scientific side of really solving for what people want. And total rewards, in a way, is a combination of rewards, benefits, compensation, and so many other things which we learn from leaders who join us in this journey. And just a little bit more about what the value proposition is. So if you are hearing about this community for the first time, what's in it for you? I think this is the four dimensions of value proposition that we'd like to offer. Again, starting from learning and growth opportunities, whether it is through virtual or in-person master classes, which are deep dive in building skills, or live dialogue with leaders like the one we are going to be hosting within a few minutes. We'll have plenty of opportunities for professionals to learn from. Another element that I would like to believe most of us feel valued is building human connections. And for that, we need opportunities to connect with people, probably more in person, but even with geographical advantage that we have, I think it's also possible to do this virtually. We'll be doing a host of these activities on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, and we will keep the community posted. We have a very interesting element of a WhatsApp community which is already live, which is where these some of these people out of the 120 have already joined, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. Um this is the community. This has focused subgroups as well where people can chat, and this can be like a safe space for people to share a problem that they're trying to solve, looking for some information across industries, you name it. This offers all the opportunities. Going back to this core, I think another key element at a individual level is for us to find career growth opportunities, whether it is finding a mentor and a coach to help us do better, or whether it is an inner circle of finding career opportunities with top employers. We will have a support system and focused programs around these as well. And last but not the least, for organizations that we work for, we would want to drive innovation, create a thriving workplace. So whether it is about industry benchmarking, where a lot of surveys happen by many consulting firms, we are going to sort of be a bridge between many of those firms and the community, or practitioners themselves who are doing some interesting work and would like to showcase some of their solutions that have really given them great results. And also tying it with the academic institutions where future professionals who are trying to learn and trying to hold the ropes of HR as a profession will be great for some of your practitioners to mentor younger students, early career folks to engage with live projects and internship, so that when we talk about really bridging this learning curve to bring people up to speed so that they are productive from day one, really a reality. So without further ado, with that context about the community, let me bring in our guest leaders for the day and welcome Mayur and welcome Yuvaraj. So good to see you. And thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on a work
Hi,
day.
Ankur.
Thank you, Ankur, for
Yeah,
having us here.
Ankur, can you hear us? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, I can. I couldn't hear you earlier if you said something, but
Uh,
good to have both of you. I promise we want to keep it very, very short. Unlike many of our sessions, which are 2 day long or 4 month long, this is going to be the shortest of them all, just 30 minutes. So, for all the audience, I would love to hear from you as well. Type in the chat, tell us where you're logging in from. If there is anything that you want to ask, something you want to share, feel free to just scribble in and we will take your questions or comments as well. I Abdul already, thank you, Abdul, for the comment. Uh, Akmal, thanks as well for your comment. So let's get started. And let me fire away the first question to Yuvraj. Is it a myth or a reality when we talk about businesses balancing high performance uh, versus employee well-being? What is it? And we hear about larger established companies as well versus new age startups. I'm not sure whether I want to name some of them. You were part of established companies. I'm saying legacy enterprises in the past, and you are. I can no longer call you a startup. You're an established company again, but you've seen that phase. So tell me, is it a myth or a
no,
reality?
no, thank you so much, Ankur, and great to see you and Mayur. Mayur, I think that we are getting inseparable. Every evening we are getting together, or every week at least we are seeing each other. Hope we don't have too much of each other in this process of you coming back. So, but anyway, always privileged to be in the good company of great professionals. So I think coming to a question, Ankur, your question has a bit of assumption, and your question has a bit of preconceived idea. And if that be so, I think that answer becomes very uh, difficult to bring out. Why should we really look at high performing organizations and employee well-being at the contra to each other? I think that it's only a question of you being at what stage in the run defines how you look at you know stress, well-being, or a high performance. When an organization reaches a pinnacle, right, in a in its own journey, if organizations go through various phases, right from startup to evolve to mature to absolutely industry leader, and during all these phases, companies experience different type of pull and pressure from the ecosystem and macro economy, and that basically defines the growth or the path or the overall stress or the performance level expected from the organizations. And if I have to really name companies which are market leader, maybe in FMCG companies, right? If you say levers, maybe one of the companies one may look at. Similarly, in certain areas, you can look at, say, Asian Paints, where I work. These are evolved, mature, established organizations which have reached to a stage after slogging a lot over a period of time, right? And they are in a commanding situation. They can have a bit of, uh, you know, ways of working wherein they have to only hold their ground. They don't have to, they have to protect their ground. They need not necessarily conquer or look for a newer ground unless they do a new business line altogether. Whereas organizations which are in a new age have to do both. They have to create market, they have to also conquer the ground, and they have to also hold what they have already acquired. And if that be so, Ankur, I think it is slightly different wiring needed for individuals who are part of these type of organizations, rather than really looking at, uh, faint-hearted can't really work in these type of an organization which are very, very demanding. And that's how people look at the right fitment when they call about what sort of people will succeed in different type of an organization. Youngsters, people have hunger, people have fire, and all that stuff. But yes, in the garb of all this, I don't think one can really take away the fact that well-being is an important element. You can even deliver high performance while maintaining a positive stress rather than a negative stress. And a positive stress is more to do with creating a right culture wherein performance is recognized. People are not only taken care of personally, but also their allied systems are taken care of. And there's a higher amount of empathy, and there is an equal amount of distribution when it comes to focus on work and focus on personal well-being. Now one can get into well-being in terms of different aspects of well-being, but top line, I would say these are more to do with the stage of organization, and it's also to do with both has to work in tandem. They can't really be they can't be a contra, and it's not a myth. I think it is more like a stage of evolution of the organization. That's how I'll respond to you. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I guess it's a bit of this and that, both, and it depends on the context for sure. And what you called out, it's not startups, not a not a space for everyone. So I think that probably has a message for everyone. Mayur, if you are with us, let's talk about leadership behavior, right? I think what Yuvraj is talking about, I think uh, leadership plays a crucial role in that different stages of the organization growth and evolution. So, if you were to look at leadership behavior that is critical for balancing this, what would that leadership behavior be?
Yeah, thanks, Ankur, for the question. And I hope my Wi-Fi is stable and you can all see me and hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes.
Ankur, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. And again, always a pleasure to share some time with Yuvraj sir. It is always, something that you learn from him. So really, really appreciate it. It has been a coincidence that we have been together for last 2 evenings, and I hope such coincidences are there in future too. So looking forward to it. So Ankur, your question is more like a calibration question. You have to force fit someone to, one leadership skill. But let me take a effort to answer that. For me, if I really look at one leadership skill, that will be empathy. If a leader has an empathy, whether it is performance, whether it is well-being, whether it is a general leadership skill, it will work out. And leaders don't need to think beyond empathy. And why I say empathy is because performance can always go up and down, right? One quarter of not having a sales achievement will not create an organization to go bankrupt, but an empathy towards why it was not done. And it could be multiple reasons. It could be reasons beyond the control of a sales rep. It could be reasons which are under control of the sales rep. And if you look at from an empathy lens, the leadership will be able to make that move beyond that. And if people don't have empathy, whether it is, we're talking about, say, a 1 quarter or 1 year of one bad season or something, whichever way we want to see it, it will create kind of a pressure in the system where people will not trust the leader. And we have seen leaders failing where they're just chasing numbers, and when I say numbers, it is performance driven. It is just chasing at a cost of sacrificing an employee. And it may not be just the well-being of the team member. It could be anything at the end of the day. It could be the career for that individual. It could be well-being for that individual. It could be a family situation for that individual. The leaders need to have an empathy. And if you give me a little leeway, I can add that Other than the empathy, where the leaders need to demonstrate it, the second thing which I think a leader should always have is an ability to lead from the front. Rather than just telling how things should happen, the person can always demonstrate how it is done in case the team member is facing some issues with performance. And if you have leaders like that, your teams are successful. Teams are ready to contribute 150% of their time, energy, invest that one, and ensure that the leader is successful, the organization is successful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayur. That's interesting and very, um, I think classic empathy is something that is so underrated. Let me go to Yuvraj. In that context, when there
Yeah.
is a leader, especially looking at high performance as a driver in the organization, Yuvraj, what are some few steps that people need to take? Because fine day, let's say a leader has this conversation with a coach, and he's been told, like in this conversation, empathy is important, not just the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I accept that, what are some few things that I need to do as an implementation, practical one or two things to start on that
Okay.
journey?
Good. Ankur and Mayur, if we go back 30 years, right, there used to be L&D function which still continues to be there. How the year used to start? Year used to start that, hey guys, can you really do the training need identification, right? And people like Mayur who would be leading teams would say, okay, fine, training need comes from business needs, individuals needs, cohorts needs, 360-degree feedback, and different aspects of figuring out what is important for the organization to drive performance. Come 30 years ahead, do the same thing what you have been doing for learning and development. Start the year by understanding the level of well-being in the organization, right? Figure out cohorts and the state of well-being of individuals. Run an assessment for people to understand at what stage of physical or mental stress or behavioral stress people are. Use 360-degree feedback or employee engagement surveys to figure out which are the areas of stress and well-being wherein it can really be driven. Divide organization in the cohorts. Some cohort might be stressed because of financial well-being not in place. Some cohort may have a problem in terms of a family related health issues. Some cohorts may have a problem related with the work culture within the team. Identify right cohorts within the organization, and instead of broad brushing the solution, which normally we would end up doing an EAP or driving a process of a psychologist or a counselor or a long sessions, create the same model what we used to do for the training needs identification. Well-being needs identification process in the organization should be driven. Organization should be divided into cohorts. Individuals should be to a great extent treated as individuals. And here, what you should replace with, way back we used to say leadership development is the need of only senior folks, right? Not people who are at a junior level or a mid level. So that leadership development aspect needs to be replaced with well-being needs of the individuals. And this, you have a broad brush of employees who are right from the senior most level to the junior most level. So here there's no hierarchy. Identify people who need specialized attention through various interventions, and then go very, very strongly in terms of addressing those individual issues. If you will try to do something which is the flavor of the day for the organizations by deploying some practices or some chats, I think you'll not reach anywhere. So my solution for the organization would be to do this what we have already been doing for the training needs. Identify the needs of the stress factors and drive the solution. It's important. One more thing is, in the organization we should start also looking at very cheap and dirty small scale ways of doing psychological and well-being assessment of individuals. Either it's in terms of a small groups discussion or in terms of individual assessments, and get to understand what is giving stress to people. If we don't do it, you'll be basically shooting in the dark and you'll not get any results out of it. So I think these are few things to start with. Is the best way to really look at first steps towards creating high performance culture, or rather having well-being and also coexisting with the high performance in the organization. Well-being needs to be treated as separate vertical now, Ankur. That is how I look at it. It's no more a part of an engagement or an org effectiveness vertical. It's a vertical in itself. Yeah. That's
Wonderful.
what I say.
So if that is the case, then clearly Yuvraj is alluding to, the role of let's say what assessment that he's suggesting once we've done that, then
Yeah.
Mayur, what is the role of non-monetary benefits and rewards in the whole scheme of things? When we are looking at total rewards, what what role do they play in creating a culture and well-being for people?
Well, I think non-monetary rewards again very something that we kind of ignore many a times, and it comes from our culture. So I was reading somewhere that Asians, from a culture point of view, we are less vocal about non-monetary. So saying a thank you becomes difficult for us. A well done job becomes difficult for us. Now, when it comes to say, the Western world, things like that is kind of part of their discussion. And it is very important at the end of the day for us to call that out. It is for many years we have known that, you always say thank you and well done in open, and then, you do the performance management or any kind of a discussion in the room. So the non-monetary award, an individual is working 2 o'clock in the night. Could be a last minute rush. There could be a project which has to be delivered. The person is not working at 2 o'clock just for that salary. The person is looking for acknowledgement that the individual has delivered, gone beyond the working hours, has still delivered, and the team leader, the organization has a basic courtesy to go and say, thank you, well done. We appreciate it. We acknowledge your hard work. And those are the non-monetary awards. You can always link it back to a reward and recognition strategy and say, okay, we can have a spot award, we can have, something called out immediately, a thank you card. All that is part of it. But the first thing which a person, a peer can do in the morning, if the person knows, is that just give that person a thank you and start that day with, there. Second, the non-monetary award is something which is sometimes becomes difficult for us to track, whether it is data-driven, because for monetary awards, it is easier for us to have a lot of data insight. Also, we can do, we can create multiple discussion points. We can have data coming in from the external survey providers for monetary award. But for non-monetary, it does become a little difficult. And hence, again, that limelight goes away from monetary, goes away from non-monetary to monetary. But a thank you card, thank you to the family, engaging the family on a regular basis, creating environment where we can get, things like bringing kids to work, show them where they are working, and I think people will be very happy. And these things really help for people to have that. And people feel less stressful when they think that family is also involved. Yesterday, I was in a discussion at a forum meeting, and someone mentioned about the health checkup. While I know we can call it a health checkup as a monetary award because there is also always an amount associated because of the budget constraint. But in my opinion, that's a non-monetary award because we are offering it not only to the team member, we are offering it to the family. So we are offering it, and the person was sharing that due to that, they were able to discover some serious ailments, and they took treatment and things improved, and the stress level came down because of those things. Maybe the the health checkup didn't happen, and it could have been a bigger problem on a later stage. The well-being would have got impacted. So I truly believe non-monetary award goes a big mile for us when we are looking at team members, we are looking at family of the team members, and we are taking, completing the circle there, taking care of everyone. Last but not the least, since I come from a healthcare company, And we all know that the pressure on the healthcare system globally is phenomenal. You go to hospitals, it is always crowded. You go to clinics, it is always important for the employee and the employer to take care of the well-being. An employee has to play a very important part. It is not just the employer taking all the initiative. Employees have to take care of their well-being also. So if you are getting a gym pass, please use it. If you are getting a health checkup, please use it. If you are getting a vacation, a voluntary day, a leave, please use it for your well-being, and to support the medical setup of any country so that everyone is happy. We also want to take care of our doctors being happy.
Wonderful. Absolutely, Yuvraj, and thank you so much for all the service that healthcare folks do. Huge respect for that. Yuvraj, I want to pick up, I want to probably get into slightly more on sales teams. When we look at monetary, non-monetary, uh, there is nowhere else you can measure this but sales. So when you look at sales team, what really drives their performance? Do you think it's cash incentives or is there something else?
So, I think that picking up from where Mayur left, answer to your question is very simple, Ankur. Are there personality types which succeed in academics? Are there personality types which succeed in entrepreneurship? Are there personality types in terms of maybe MBTI or any psychological assessment who succeed in a scientific roles? If the answer to that is yes, to a great extent, I think there lies the answer. You have personality types which are driven in very different way in terms of incentivization and recognition. If you look at typical sales profile, you would find a very different persona of an individual if I tell you to think, and if I say that think of an engineer who's a coder in my system, you'll find both have a very different persona, the way they think, the way they approach things. And I'm not talking about everyone, I'm talking about people who succeed and relish those roles. So if the sales guy is supposed to be an extrovert, if a sales guy is, and I'm not saying that extrovert or introvert is good or bad, no judgments around that, but somebody who loves relationship, somebody who loves to be outdoors, somebody who loves to really meet new people, somebody who's very uh, intuitive, believes in gut, I think that person has a personality. You can't really recognize this person by giving a voucher. That may take care of his financial needs, but if you take him on the stage and raise his hand and say, uh, you know, well fought red and blues, the winner, and raise his hand, I think for him, that recognition is far, far better than giving him a voucher of Amazon or any other platform. So it's important not only for the sales profile, Ankur, it's important for any type of a profile. There are behavior drivers for people. There is a recognition driver. I know you are an entrepreneur, you do it for what? There'll be a driver for it. What Mayur does and what I do and what hundreds of people on the show are doing, they do for something what really excites them. I think that you need to catch hold of that nerve and then say that, this group of people, you want to make it slightly broad based, make it. But if you can make it individualistic, I think it is far better. But if you can make, for the ease of logistic, if you want to make it a cohort wise, think of what drives people. And my experience has been that sales guys are hungry for recognition. Sales guys are hungry for knowing the impact they have created. In the sales verticals, people will always fight. West has done better, or North has done better, or this district has done better, or this business has done better. They want to be reckoned, and they should know that where are they creating an impact. If you communicate to them in a forum that so and so work was done by so and so team, and that is what has created an impact on the sales of so and so category, I think it's a huge recognition. They also, sales guys, believe in group recognition. And mind you, this is something which is very, very differentiated. An engineer or a scientist or a doctor or somebody who's left brain, you may think that individual recognition is great, but sales folks also believe in recognition which is more like a cohort based recognition, 4 people, 5 people, so that they can celebrate and enjoy the collective success. That's what my experience has been. So I will say I'll mix it with monetary benefits, incentives, some stuff which is more materialistic, because that stays longer on the mantelpiece or in the kitchen or in the home, and it reminds you of work. But I think that's one which has a larger and far greater impact on the psyche of an individual, is something what is connected with the personality type. And there's no as such panacea for any specific role, but persona wise, I think that is how it really works on.
Wonderful. So if you were to, if let's say hypothetically some other company CEO, some other company CHRO were having a conversation that sales are down, what do? We need something as a quick fix. What will be that answer?
I would say that, please find victories in the losses also and talk to people. Keep the morale high by telling them 10 things didn't go right, but 2 things went right. I think it's more important to do positive conversation and let people feel pride of doing what they are, rather than making them feel that they have failed. The soldiers don't work like that. Soldiers work to look for victories which can be even small, and that's what gives them a trigger to really achieve higher targets. So a CEO is asking me, I'll say, hey, go and tell the team that what went right and what these guys did is still better than talking about what didn't go wrong. I think message is same, but the way you deliver it is different. That's what I'll say.
Beautiful. There's a lot of acceptance in the comments. I can see Manoj is nodding in what you're saying, Rajiv as well, Sumit as well. So great. Popularity wins. Wonderful. So I'm conscious of the time. I want to quickly probably uh, get you both to answer, quick answers. Mayur, how do we make sure, in the quest of getting more performance, that our people don't burn out? How do we make that happen? What Yuvraj is also mentioning, what are ways to sort of quick 1 or 2 ideas to, look at how do we ensure people don't burn out?
Well, again, as any organization should always look at creating, their own dashboards. And why I use dashboard, because that's the data-driven decision that anyone needs to make. Burnout can happen because of few things, right? Unrealistic demand, and that could be, and maybe that's what the organization is looking for. But at the end of the day, is that sustainable? It can happen for 1 quarter, it can happen maybe for the second quarter, but not for a very long run. Now, as Yuvraj has mentioned, sales organizations specifically, they look for that commitment, that kind of a reinforcement, where you're talking about how things can improve, rather than talking about 1 quarter down and 2 quarter down. So at the end of the day, if you want to really avoid a burnout, we have to have a long-term vision rather than having a short-term vision. We need to balance it out. I'm not saying that we should do away with short-term. We need to balance that out. But at the end of the day, every organization would like to have a successful long-term. So if we can look at, say, a productivity, if that's what is creating more stress within the organization, if we can look at our structures, how that is being driven, is the decision-making structure defined correctly, if the workload is defined correctly, and it also many times happen that whoever is the hypo generally gets a lot of work coming, and that individual is also ready to take up new assignments, right? More and more assignment, rather than saying no to it. So we accept it many a time. And that counseling needs to happen with that individual if that is causing burnout for that person. So all that has to be seen while we are working towards creating a sustainable organization. If you are creating an organization which is supposed to just, work like a rocket, so it flies and go to the space, so you burn out everything. If that's the organization we are looking for, yeah, we can have a different strategy altogether, and we can have everything around it, to work that way. But if you're looking for a sustainable organization, we need to have a long-term vision, focusing on productivity, focusing on structure, focusing on our leadership qualities.
Last note, Yuvraj, we've short 5 minutes, but uh, typically in the past, we've looked at engagement surveys or employee surveys as a mechanism to look at effectiveness of comp and ben and total rewards. Any other idea, new age, that is more effective?
Yeah, I think before that, it's important to have patience to give time to measure effectiveness of your total rewards, right? Because rewards, once they are established into the organization, and many people have experienced it, and it starts giving giving a flavor of a culture of the organization, you can't really measure the effectiveness of it. If I run an incentive scheme for a year, I run a survey and I'll definitely get a lot of kudos for having a great incentive scheme, but that's not the culture. That's not sustainable. I think it might have worked only in a short span. You should look at chatters about your organization in the neutral platforms. If I look at platforms, whether it's a Glassdoor or Ambition Box, or if I go and see LinkedIn and the social media platforms, while I may not give too much of a credence to everything what is written there, but you can't garbage everything. There are some sentiments which you can really pick up, and you can enlarge it and see how people are thinking about it. Other interesting way of understanding the impact is have a lot of conversations. Before this session, I just came out of a session, Ankur, with 30 of the youngsters who are below 25 years of age in the organization, and they're engineers. I'm trying to do a bit of study of how these youngsters think, and there are certain myths around them. And everybody says Gen Z and Gen Millennials think differently. I was talking to them to understand how do they think. I realize you get a lot of inputs on what you're doing is right, which you think that you have not done. So I think believe in doing small group huddles within the organization. Believe in talking to your ex-employees what they miss about the organization. Create a platform wherein you can reach out to them with a survey and say, what do you miss about the organization? Talk to your consultants and the partners, and talk to them and ask them what people talk about us when you go and talk about my organization as a hiring organization. You'll realize that you get a lot of insights. You go to campuses and speak to the students and figure out that why do they like MakeMyTrip and why do they don't like something else. I think sources which are hidden under the carpet, which are not obviously visible, are the ones which you need to uh, look at, rather than the obvious ones in terms of engagement surveys, which can to a great extent be cosmetic metric to really look at. That's how I do it, and that's how I like to really know about the organization rather than looking at the matrices here. Yeah. That's what I'll say.
Wonderful. So, no going away from getting your hands dirty, going deeper, having conversations, looking at data, and looking at things holistically. And most important, what I'm taking away is giving things time. You
Yeah.
can't expect a seed to become a tree fast.
Yeah.
If you throw more money at it, or if you throw more stuff at that. So that's great. Thanks so much, Yuvraj, Mayur, for this conversation. But last bit before we close our commercial break is that we are coming up with if you enjoyed this mini conversation, I can call it like a micro conversation of 30 minutes. If this is of your interest, then we are going a deep dive on the 20th and 21st of December in Gurgaon. This is our first in-person workshop under the community banner. We've done this several times under Corporate Shiksha, but after the launch of the community, this is our first one. So if anything related to how do you effectively design an incentive program, how do you do salary benchmarking, what are the linkage between business strategy to total reward strategy, to look at this domain in a deep dive in a 2-day manner, this is going to be an opportunity for you. And because Corporate Shiksha has completed 11 years and we are this year celebrating that in multiple ways, we are throwing in an additional, hopefully, value, which we believe it's an annual membership that everyone joining at this time is going to get. So you will have access to the community of Total Rewards, which we talked about. My colleague will put the link in the chat right now. So if you're listening, go right up and sign up, and you will get monthly sessions like this one on an ongoing basis. You will also get quarterly programs that we are going to do for members as meetups, which are not going to be too much on Gyan, more of allowing people to sort of connect with each other and pick up pulse and insight. So I hope this is worth your time. And like all good things, this has to come to an end. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And special thanks to Yuvraj and Mayur for taking the time out and being with us.
Thank you.
I see you on the other side.
Thank you. Thanks, Ankur. Thanks, Mayur. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, Yuvraj. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you on the other side.